Welcome to the second edition of Rally Jameel, Saudi Arabia's first all-female off-road navigation rally that goes through some of the most incredibly rich areas of the country, both geographically and historically. Welcome to Rekiel, the land of generosity. Rekiel is the second stop on the Rally Jameel route, and the city and province date back to prehistoric times. We know this because of the many archaeological sites with rock carvings and artifacts that date back thousands of years. The area has many historical sites and has a rich history dating back to the camel caravan trade routes. Rekiel means in between, and it gets its name from a tragic love story from pre-Islamic Arabia. Ajah and Salma, much like Romeo and Juliet, came from families that opposed their union. They both died a tragic death for their love, and today are represented by the mountains Ajah and Salma on either side of Rekiel, the city the two lovers would meet. In ancient times, Rekiel was a lush green oasis city with many rivers and lakes running through it. Today, Rekiel is a majestic area with white volcanic fields, mountain ranges with acacia trees, and lush green gardens amongst the vast deserts. A reef fort is one of the oldest historical buildings in Rekiel city. Constructed in 18th century AD, it's made from mud brick and clay, typical of the architecture of that period. It survived many battles since it was built to protect Rekiel from the southern side, and what we see today is a result of careful reconstruction. It's one of Rekiel's 670 registered heritage sites and adds to the region's rich cultural history. A reef fort is strategically built on top of a hill to allow guardsmen to keep watch and protect the city. Rekiel is naturally protected by rocky terrain and mountain ranges, and then further north opens up to the Great Al Nafud Desert. Historically, during Ramadan, a reef fort was where the moon was observed and the iftar cannon fired to signal the end of the daily fast. I'm sitting amongst the ancient rocks of Jubbah. Jubbah is one of Rekiel's UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the other one being Shuwaimis. This one is a little bit easier to get to, and we can enjoy the human history that's been left behind. Jubbah comes from the Arabic word jub, which means water well. There once was a freshwater lake that existed here at the bottom of Sinman, which has since dried up. Jubbah has about 8,000 rock carvings, and they depict everything from what life was like here, what the humans who were living here looked like, what they did, and even the animals that lived here with them. There is a rock carving from a man named Hajjaj, who seems to be hunting with his Arabian lion, so that means he managed to tame this wild beast. Hajjaj left us with another rock carving, and this one is depicting two women with an Arabian lion. This shows how proud the Thamudic people were of their women, and that also the women didn't just rear children, although that's in a very important role. They were also out and about taming wild beasts. They were fierce, strong, and had courage. Jubbah is also home to the famous Queen Rock, Naqsh Al Malaka, and the Chariot. Just around the corner from the start of Stage 3 of Rally Jameel is one of the most important discoveries in archaeology, not just in Saudi Arabia, but in the world. This is Jabal Umm Sinman, a rock formation in Jubbah, one of Rekiel's UNESCO World Heritage Sites dating back 10,000 BC. Considered one of the largest open-air galleries with a growing record of 5,000 rock carvings, the rock art not only gives information on the civilizations that thrived here, but locks in precious biological and environmental information and adaptations to the changing climate. On my left here is a carving of a king, which is interesting because the Thamud people didn't have a class system, but it's clear they needed a leader. And that leader was usually elected on the attributes of being caring, compassionate, and strong. But I don't mean physical strength, I mean bravery and courage. Think of this area as a history book, and each rock face as a page in that history book. written by the people that lived here. This is called #rock, basically an ancient version of a message board. It has about 3 eras of rock carvings here. The darker ones are from 10,000 BC, the lighter ones with no writing from 5,000 BC, and the remainder that has writing from 1,500 BC. The people who came across this rock face would see writing and add to it. They wanted to add to the story, they wanted to tell their own story. Remember, this is like a page in a history book that was continually being written. On the other side of Sinman are arguably the site's 2 most famous rock carvings, Naqsh Al Malaka and the Chariot. Humans have an ancient history with mobility, and we know this thanks to rock carvings. This is likely Saudi Arabia's most famous petroglyph, the Chariot of Jubbah. Archaeologists date it back to between 5000 BC and 1500 BC, and they know this because of 3 things. There's no writing accompanying this petroglyph. The color of the stone, it's already gone through the process of oxidization, so it's been blackened, and all the weather changes that occurred in this area have changed the rock. And also the style of the petroglyph, so the way that it was carved using a picking technique. A strong, sharp tool was knocked into the red sandstone. What we don't know is what the chariot was used for. Was it used for agricultural practices, farming, to transport a leader, perhaps a king? But effectively, it's the start of rallying and racing. And just next to the chariot is the other famous residence, Naqsh Al Malaka, the Queen Rock. This is so exciting as it's another depiction of a woman from ancient history. We have here a rock carving from 10,000 years ago of what archaeologists believe to be a queen. Now they think she's a queen because there's only one carving like this in Jubbah, just like there's one carving of the king we saw earlier. Here are her legs, her dress, and her beautiful hair flowing from each side of her face. The Thamuric people who carved this would usually move from Alola, passing through Jubbah, and using this as a bit of a creative, recreational time when they would perform their rock carvings. This is why we don't see any trace of settlements in this area. And then they would move to the east. On the road linking Rekiel and Qassim lies the historical village of Faid, where the Abdul Latif Jameel Centre for Antiquities and National Heritage guards one of the most fascinating stories in Islamic pilgrimage history. Faid sits at the halfway point of the famed pilgrimage route named Darb Zubayda, and was once one of the largest resting stations, providing food, shelter, and precious water for travelers on the harsh desert road. This is one of the most incredible stories of female empowerment, a woman noticing a problem, taking action, and leaving a legacy. I'm talking, of course, of Darb Zubayda, Queen Zubayda from the Abbasid dynasty, who commissioned a series of stations and wells on the pilgrimage route from Kufa to Mecca. The story starts with Queen Zubayda, who was on one of her pilgrimages to Mecca. This was a particularly dry year, and she noticed the pilgrims were suffering from a lack of water. Her first project was to deepen the Zamzam well, and then she went back to Iraq and commissioned engineers to create stations on this road that already existed but was seldom used. It was dangerous, treacherous with rocky terrain, and of course no water. The project started around the year 750 in the 8th century. It's believed that 27 stations and 27 substations were constructed over more than 1,400 kilometers. I'm walking down a canal that feeds into one of Zubayda's remaining pools. And incredibly, it looks like it's still in use today, likely providing water for the surrounding farmers and shepherds. Zubayda's engineers were incredibly resourceful, and they built these pools and wells according to ancient river systems and points of elevation where the water could easily be captured and stored for use. Queen Zubayda used her wealth, influence and power to bring water to a dry and arid region and help not just pilgrims, but those that were using this road. She created a legacy that lasted over 1,000 years. The surviving structures of the Darb Zubaydah stations that can be found across Saudi Arabia towards Mecca are currently on the UNESCO tentative list. This is one of Zubayda's remaining pools. It's in amazing condition, well preserved thanks to Abdul Latif Jameel Museum of Antiquities. It belongs to the archaeological site of Faid, which is located right next to us. The ancient archaeological village made of volcanic rock is one of the biggest archaeological discoveries in Ha'il, comprised of ruins of a palace known as Kharash, defense walls and towers, and smaller interconnected buildings. Faid is special for two reasons. It's a main station on Darb Zubayda, Queen Zubaydah's trail for pilgrims from Kufa to Mecca, providing them with food, shelter, and most importantly, water. And it's written in the pages of Arabian history as the first village to implement a sophisticated plumbing system, meaning each house here had direct access to water. Archaeologists discovered wells that were connected to aqueducts, dating back to the early Islamic period. This site is rich with architectural structures, service areas with bakery ovens, wash basins, and many rooms. The site also includes an ancient mosque. Pottery utensils and glass, stone, and metal pieces were also discovered here.